Hi there. Welcome to the West Houston Institute's IDEA Studio. This is Houston Community College's first and only full-size makerspace. So the next few minutes, what I'd like to do is go around our space and kind of show you what we have the capabilities of doing and show you why we do them and maybe kind of give you a few examples of some projects. So this main area is called our assembly area, and so we have a lot of things that we can do in this space: 3D printing, we have laser cutting, we have vinyl cutting, and some other things. So let's get started over here at the 3D printer. First, I'd like to show you some examples of some of the projects that we've done, just some small projects that we kind of keep at our reception desk, so you can kind of see a variety of different 3D printing projects, CNC milled projects, and some other sort of electronic sort of stuff. Like here we have a, this is a 3D printed object, so some of you are screaming of what this is. This is Pickle Rick. Now, this is not a painted 3D printed part. This is printed in multiple colors. You can see we have green, red, black, and white. And so normally when you think of 3D printing is where you take a spool of plastic filament and it extrudes it out until you have the part that totally builds up. But that occurs with just one color. Well, we have the capability of printing in multiple colors. And so this is just an example of those. And so some of the other things that we have here is a project that we created here. This was done by our illustrious cameraman, engineer, Jeffrey Chen. This is a project that was made completely inside of our space. And so this looks like it's a complicated setup because it looks gorgeous. But what it really is a series of stacked colored acrylic pieces that were cut into like a 2D shape and then stacked and glued, and then it was filled with an LED strip. And this LED strip will light the acrylic, and you can see that it has that really glowing effect. So let's make our way over to the 3D printers real fast, and I can kind of show you what it is that we do over here. So we have over 30 3D printers in the IDEA Studio, and we use them for a lot of different reasons. We have a couple of banks of Prusa printers, and these are very, very sturdy workhorses. And over here we have a bank of Ultimakers. There are other kinds of 3D printers that we have. We also have these SLA printers, and so this uses the same layer concept. This uses a tray of liquid resin. What will happen is the build plate will submerge into the resin, and a laser light will shine up from underneath and cure that resin onto the build plate. And so over time, the part is actually suspended hanging down, upside down, and the part comes away. You can make really, really fine parts just like this right here. So you can see a lot more resolution parts like this than you could ever create with the FFF printing. All right, so let's move on to other areas of our space here. Oh, I wanted to show you real quickly our large format 3D printer. So this is our Gigabot. You can see here, this has a much, much larger build volume than most of the other printers that we have. And so this has a 2 foot by 2 foot by 3 foot build volume. So you can make things that are quite large. That is one of the constraints that you have with these other standard printers, is that if you wanted to print a large thing, you have to digitally slice it and then print them as parts and then maybe glue them or bolt them together sometime later. Here, you can print the entire part all at one shot, and so you get much more mechanically stable parts again. So this has been a very useful printer for us whenever we have large print jobs. So real quickly, let me show you the electronics area. We have a full area here with ventilation and soldering and other components that we would use in order to make electronics projects. Whenever I show you any of these tools, know that there is a training, and these are not very deep trainings, and so we show you just enough how to use these tools. And if you find that that's something that interests you, you can go much deeper and learn how to use those tools in a much more robust and dynamic fashion. But we show you how to use every single one of these tools in our space so that you can make your project. All right, so let's move on over here to the laser cutting. Now the laser cutters, these are 120 watt CO2s. That may not mean much to you, but this gives us the capability of cutting in through most woods and plastics. We cannot cut through metal, but we can etch onto it if we have a special coating on it. But we show you how to use these laser cutters. And so there's a pretty large cutting bed, so this is pretty good for production. Last summer, we spent quite a bit of time on these machines making personal protective equipment. And so we were able to run through a lot of our raw material to make PPE with these large volume areas. And of course, we could have two running at once. So this was very, very useful for that sort of application. Let's move on to another area real fast. This is our vinyl cutting area, but it's really our textile area. So in vinyl cutting, we have the ability to take rolls or sheets of different kinds of vinyl and cut them with the vinyl cutter. What it produces is a design that's cut out, and you can use those designs to either put them on t-shirts or on your wall. So for example, here's a rack of examples of things that have been vinyl cut. So this was cut from a sheet of vinyl, and then it was laid onto the shirt, and then we brought it over here to our heat press, and it was melted onto the shirt. And so this is the product. So again, we have so many different examples. You can see here is an example of a multicolored vinyl cut project where you can see the pink and the white and the sparkly red. And so if you can break down this complicated project into its component parts, you can make something that's really, really dynamic like this. And so again, we have tons of these kinds of projects that we can show you and show you how to do. And so here's also our embroidery machine here. Here's a test shirt that we've been playing around with. These are just a few of the first ones, and these are the stock images that come with the embroidery machine. It will give you the ability to put these on caps or shirts or bags or whatever, and so we'll show you how to use these. One of the amazing things that I think about when people come into the space is they'll find a tool and something just speaks to them. One of the tools just like they really find connection with that, and they'll go pretty deep on it. And so people will turn this into a career. They certainly can turn something like this into a career where they can go on Etsy or go on other platforms and sell their services for not too much of an expense. The 3D printers, they have a certain entry cost, and these vinyl cutters here, they're overkill for someone's personal use, but they're not that expensive, just a few $100s. And when it comes to entry costs for a business, that's not a great expense. And so this is our textile area. I want to show you just kind of the rest of the area. So we have this whole space where people have the ability to kind of go to their table and go to their area and work on their projects. And so it's a wonderful open space here. We have a bank of computers that have pretty much all the different softwares that you can think of in order to run these. And so there are a bunch of different kinds of softwares that the users can use in order to create these projects. One of the projects, I guess one of the most recent projects that we created was, I say we, I didn't have anything to do with it, that was created in our space is the West Houston Institute sign that's going to be going up in our foyer not too soon from now. And this was just now completed by our staff. When I say by our staff, I mean by our two staff technicians who both happen to be mechanical engineers, who both happen to be graduates of the UT Tyler engineering program. And so they created this, and they used many, many different kinds of disciplines in order to create this project. And so you can kind of see, I'm going to turn, this actually lights up, so I'm going to turn this on, and you can see that they use electronics, obviously, and woodworking and laser cutting and CNC routing. This was an amazing project, so I can't wait to see it get mounted in the space. All right, so one of the other things I'd like to show you is our wood shop. And so we have a full-blown wood shop that you can do all the things that you normally could do inside of a wood shop. We have all the sawing and all the drilling and all the sanding. But we also have some innovative and advanced methods of fabrication, and one of those is our CNC router. This is our shop-out router. This has the capability of cutting onto a full sheet of plywood or plastic or metal. This is 4-foot by 8-foot cutting surface. It has the ability to carve and engrave, and we've done a lot of different projects. You can kind of see here, this is just a spoil board. So what'll happen is this drill bit will go and cut out a bunch of different parts. We really use this machine here for PPE production because this cutting surface is so large, we had the ability to make really large batches of PPE. And so these are some of the face shields that we created based off of open source and approved designs. So we were able to create very, very large batches and create thousands of pieces of PPE and deliver them to healthcare workers and other places. And so this was one of the key components that helped us create so many pieces for that. All right, so let's continue on here. So we have table saw, we have some stock wood here and some raw stock. We have a couple of miter saws here, and this miter saw table was made by one of our staff members. and completely from scratch. And so that is one of the benefits of having a makerspace, is that we have the staff and the space and the equipment to make more tables and whatnot. So yeah, it's perfectly custom. Drill press. So outside we have a work yard, and this is a place where we go to do projects where we have something that needs a lot of ventilation or it's very high heat. So this is where we go for these kinds of projects. Now you can kind of see here we have an ambulance sitting in the middle of our workspace. This is an art car. This is our second year for the art car project, and the first year that we had was run by Ashley Hope, and the second year is the same. The first year she did art car bikes and ran those entries. This year's entry is a vehicle, a full-fledged vehicle, and it is an ambulance. And so it's being converted into a beautiful art cart. And so all of the images that you're going to see as we go past down the edge are hand-painted flowers and other graphics that were made by the artist and her students. And so this was a student cooperative initiative. And so as we happen to have today, Ashley Hope here, she is the artist. So Ashley, tell us a little bit about this art car project.
Donated by Health and Safety because it was no longer in use, but it was still perfectly running. Automotive team fixed it up. Then we had welders, machinists, electrical engineering students, art students. We had the whole gamut from across the HCC districts to come participate on this. Right now, we're gonna finish it this semester. We're doing the final surfacing. We're gonna finish the outside paint, and we're gonna upholster and electrify the brain inside. And it should be ready for the art car parade this semester if it happens. But if not, what we're gonna do is just have it ready to go, do events with it, and then the next art car parade will participate. So hopefully, so COVID cannot kill this project.
Thank you very much, Ashley. Yeah, this is a gorgeous project, and I can't wait till it's finally running and running down the road. All right, so let's move on. So again, we have other tools that we have out here. So this is our powder coat oven. We have the ability to take metal materials and powder coat them and make them more durable. So this last place that I wanted to show you is our metal shop. And so in here, we can do most of the traditional things that you would think you can do in the metal shop. We have welding here. Over there, we have the horizontal bandsaw and the lathe, and we have the notcher bender, cutter, grinder, and so over here, again, we also have the ability to do high-tech manufacturing methods. We have our plasma CNC cutter over here, and so again, it's a rather large cutting surface that we can take sheet steel or other kinds of metals and use the plasma cutter to use the CNC method to make very complicated shapes and very exact dimensional shapes. And so this is, again, a very useful tool that we have in our fabrication tool belt, as it were. And finally, over here, we have our CNC mill, and it does pretty much the same sort of thing, but it does it on a much more exacting basis. So you have all these different sort of tool bits that can mill out of metal, different kinds of metal, and make very, very refined parts. And so you can kind of see an example that I think Jeffrey is making some molds here and some testing out some other materials. And so we show the students how to use these tools. That is one of the most amazing things about this place. It's very unique that we intently showing the students and the faculty and staff on how to use these tools. There's a lot I didn't cover, and so if you have any questions, by all means, contact me. Our website is hccs.edu/IDEAStudio, and our contact information is on that page. So thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you in the IDEA Studio.